Hey, what's up? This is Kevin from Kevin's Barbecue Joints, and welcome to episode 2 of Barbecue and Wine with Erin Feges from Feges Barbecue. They have a place in Greenway Plaza as well as Spring Branch. This focuses on the Spring Branch location because they have a wine program there and they serve wine by the glass or by the bottle. And I'm just excited about this project. It's once a month. It'll be near the beginning of the month, so subscribe. That way you don't miss out or put some sort of reminder. But this is going to be so great. This episode, we talk about 3 different wines that they carry, and one of which we have a guest speaker in, Volker Donovan, pronouncing his name completely wrong. You'll hear later on it pronounced correctly. He's from Austria, and his wine is featured on their menu, and he talks all about it. And he talks about growing up in a wine family. He talks about a bunch of stuff, but he talks about his wine specifically, and then we get into some other subjects. So that is super fun. We have a guest, and we'll have a guest generally every episode, and then Erin will talk in depth about 2 specific wines or 3, depends on how many we're covering. And hopefully my wine knowledge is small, Erin's is very large, so hopefully over the course of this you will learn as well as I will learn. I just bought a bunch of different books on recommendations from Erin, so if you want those recommendations, give me a DM and I'll give you those books. But hopefully along the way we could all learn more about wine, appreciate more about wine, and also learn about pairings and how great it is with barbecue and with food. We also go over something that's very special to Patrick and Erin, and it's Veterans Friday over at the Greenway Plaza location from 11 to 2. Veterans eat free. And I'll put notes below on how to support this effort. They had someone that was helping. She discusses it in depth, but they had someone that was helping with this, and that person had finished their course of assisting, and people reached out and started to donate for this Veterans Friday. Right now, Patrick announced that they have reached 52 weeks, so 1 year's worth of free lunches for veterans, which is just phenomenal. They already do stuff for veterans. On Veterans Day, they eat for free at both locations. They give 10% off for all veterans when they come at both locations. Patrick's a veteran, so it's very close to the heart. So that's a wonderful program. They're also doing a Guest Chef Takeover this Saturday, March 12th from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. It's Ali. He's a chef from Finland who has a barbecue spot in Finland called Miller's, and he'll be doing a special dinner. We'll put a link below to order if you want to order ahead of time, but you could also order there. He'll be walking around talking about his meal. Super great experience. This is the very first one they're doing, so it's March 12th. So if you're listening to this on March 13th, then you've missed out. And I'll keep announcing them each month ahead of time, so if there is one that's coming up, I'll let you guys know ahead of time. They still do their steak dinners every Wednesday night, a different steak dinner, which is awesome. And a fun thing of this is that Erin talks about a wine that she says is the best barbecue pairing, the classic barbecue pairing. So you don't want to miss that. These are super fun. I don't want to get too long and involved with the intro because we have a very full episode coming up. But thanks so much for checking these out. Hope that this opens your mind to pairing barbecue with wine. I can't thank Erin enough for doing these. And remember to stay safe and visit your local barbecue joint. Good afternoon, Erin. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good. I always like to start these like mid-laugh, it seems like, but I'm always smiling when I talk to you. So this is great. So this is episode 2 of Barbecue and Wine with Erin Feges and Kevin Kelly. That's what Kevin's Barbecue Joints. And so this is exciting. We made it to episode 2, and episode 1 was fantastic. And I appreciate you taking the time. And I'm glad we're doing this project. And a lot of people are really excited about this. I've talked to people, and there's someone that's even that's in the barbecue world that's a sommelier, that she was excited that we're doing this. So,
wow.
Excited to see. I think you might have met her, Erica.
Oh, Barbecue Blair.
Yeah, Barbecue Blair. She was a sommelier. Oh. Did you know?
We're buddies. Erica and I are like this.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Let's talk. We talk about wine. We talk about things that are going on at your restaurant and pairings and things. And today we have 3 wines, right?
Yes. Yeah, we have 3 wines. 2 of them are new to the list. And then one of them is one that we've had since we opened, but it is the most classic, in my opinion, barbecue pairing that exists.
Really? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Do you want to jump into those, and then we have a special guest too. I should probably if I was smart about that. We have a special guest that's coming on our show. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you might want to go jump to the YouTube version because it's nice to see. But we have Volker Donovan. Donovan. See, I knew I'd butcher his name, but he's going to be on our show discussing his wine that is in your restaurant, and we're excited. So he's originally from Austria, and if you guys check in to these episodes, we'll start to have guests, and they'll be either winemakers or producers or and some people probably from the beer world as well.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
I think we discussed that. Excellent. Well, excellent. So let's talk about wine, and then we'll bring Volker in. We'll notify him.
Okay. Well, so I'm not going to talk too much about it because we'll have Volker talk about it. But we've got a Gruner Veltliner that we just added to the menu. But I can go ahead and jump right into. This is the Don't Forget to Soar. This is from a Texas winery called Southold. They were originally located in the Finger Lakes region of New York.
Okay.
So I think most people are aware now that New York State produces wine, but not everybody knows that. And it's like growing in popularity and growing in quality. And there's some really great stuff. They started there and then moved to Fredericksburg in the Texas Hill Country. And I am absolutely obsessed with this wine, not just this wine, but the winery, the winemakers, the location. Like if I could re-envision my life, I would be them doing what they do.
Oh, really? Can you describe it? Why is that?
It's just, I think winemaking is probably the most fascinating job in the world. I feel like the way they do wine and the way they approach wine is exactly how I would want to do it. They're minimally hands-on, meaning they really try to let the grapes do what the grapes do and nature do what nature does and the climate do what climate does. And that requires a lot of, that actually requires more skill and technique, I think. And I love the wines they produce. Everything I've ever tried is just super delicious. This is the second vintage we've served. So we previously had it on the menu. It was the 2020. It was a blend of Roussanne and I think Gruner Veltliner, which, but we called it a white blend. Now this year we just got this bottle. I mean, this was delivered like 2 days ago. It's not even printed on the menu yet.
You mentioned them in the last episode and you were excited about this. Is cool. I'm really excited. Okay.
Excited. I didn't know when we were going to get it. That's the thing about 2022 and the pandemic is it's knowing when stuff is going to arrive is very challenging right now. So when you run out and you're trying to get the replacement with the next vintage, a lot of the producers and people that we're working with are like, we don't know exactly when it's going to be in your hands. And so when this arrived, it was like Christmas, we got our case. I don't even know the grapes specifically yet. They are labeling this a white blend. I would imagine it's probably a little bit of the same. So probably some Roussanne and Gruner, but maybe not. So I'm going to find that out.
Cool.
I'm gonna taste it literally for the first time.
Okay. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So
it's a white blend. That's what we know. Let's see.
I'm just obsessed. This is so clean and so pretty. It's got a lot of like good floral notes to it. I'm so excited about this wine. Like I'm not gonna stop talking about it.
And so is it available yet, or it will be on the list soon?
Yeah, so we've got it. It's starting today. It's available. It will be printed on the menu starting tomorrow. And I'll find out the grapes exactly, but it is very floral, very aromatic, beautiful notes. I think this is just a really easy drinking wine year round, cold weather, hot weather. It goes great with barbecue. In my opinion, it goes great with barbecue because I think it has a little bit more subtle notes to it, which sometimes that's actually a really good complement to something that's really aggressive, which in my opinion, barbecue can be sometimes kind of aggressive, right? It's got that smoke forward quality to it. So the wine is, sits down and kind of lets the barbecue shine, but the acidity is nice. The structure is good. I'm so excited to have it back.
That's awesome. And what's it called again? So
this is the winemaker is Southold Farm and Cellars.
Southold, yeah.
And the wine is called Don't Forget to Soar. This is the 2021 vintage, and it's so excited.
And do they name all their wines inspirational things, or is it?
Their winemaking names are so clever. So a few that I can think of off the top of my head. One of my favorite red wine they have right now is called Therapy for Liars.
That's awesome. That's a great name.
They have another one called High Speed, Low Drag. So I could be mixing that up. Low Drag, High Speed. I can't remember. No, the names are very kind of whimsical and tongue in cheek, and just the winemaking I think it's some of the best winemaking I've tasted in Texas. really excited to see where they go since they're fairly new here. So it's only going to get better.
So Texas grapes, are they growing in Fredericksburg or?
So they do grow some. I think their
Some up in Lubbock?
Vineyard location is so young that I don't know that they're producing wines yet from their own grapes that they're growing on premise. But all of the wines that they are making are from Texas grapes. So they're sourcing from William Chris, Robert Clay. I know they source some from the High Plains AVA, which is near Lubbock. So you were paying attention last time. But yeah, they're I believe exclusively using Texas grapes. I could be wrong about that, but they do a really, really great job with how they're producing the wine. And eventually I know they will be using grapes grown on their own property.
And that's something that I think we touched on before, but it's not every winemaker is using their own grapes. That's actually probably happens less than it does happen more. You have to be a skilled winemaker to make a wine that Erin Feges likes. So that says a lot. I trust your palate, and I think the people that listen to this trust your palate. And that's, if they want to learn more about your palate, they could watch our first episode and our first interview, because you talk about your journey. So it's your palate you've had a chance to shape your palate, which is nice. A lot of people haven't necessarily. So that's cool. So that's the first wine we're featuring. What's the second one?
Okay, the second one is the Cleto Chiarli Vecchia Modena. It's a Lambrusco. The grape is Lambrusco de Sabara. It's a really, really interesting bottle. So what's unique about this is a representation of the original bottle from 1892. It's really unusual. So we'll definitely get you guys some images of what the bottle looks like up close. But all I can say to those that aren't looking at it to describe it is it looks like what a wine bottle must have looked like, back in like the 19th century. And it's a really interesting way of opening a wine.
It kind of looks like from if I'm looking at it correctly, it looks like it's being split. The cork is like cut.
Yeah.
Well, not cut, but it's bisected.
It is. And then it's being held in by this little cage that's kind of unique. I've never seen another bottle that looks like this, but this must have been classic from back in that time period. And so training our staff to open this bottle, they were originally like so nervous. It's like a lot of them weren't really comfortable opening wine, period. But then you hand them something that's unusual and they were like, what do I do with this? But so I'm here to open it. So
yeah, that's cool.
I just put the wine key right underneath and then pop it off. Yep.
Oh,
and then this is what it looks like.
Okay, there, yeah. Oh wow. Like
once it's off,
almost like a bracket or
yeah. Well, and then from here it's champagne, right? This is under a lot of pressure. We'll talk a little bit about Lambrusco.
Yeah.
Voila.
See, so if you're watching this or listening, you don't always have to just like have your thumbs and shoot the cork into the
don't shake it up and then point it at your at your husband unless you want to.
Yeah, that's part of it. Part of the fun of the evening. But I think that's something that a lot of people are also scared about, opening bottles of champagne for some reason. Like they'll give it to somebody else to open, and a lot of times you even just take a towel and put it over if you're concerned.
Yeah. And I mean, this is what I tell my staff, because they seem so nervous about doing bottle presentation and stuff. And I'm like, you know what? In wine, there is a very clear right way to do things, but there is not a very clear wrong way to do things. So don't try to be right, and just try to do what you're comfortable with. And most likely it's not wrong. Mm-hmm. And really at the end of the day, wine is meant to be enjoyed. And so as long as you get the bottle open, you've done what you set out to do.
Yes, definitely.
And so they all actually enjoy opening the Cleto Chiarli now, because they know how to do it, and it's kind of fun and different.
And people haven't seen it, so it's probably fun for people to see them do that.
Yeah. And it's just such an interesting, I just love the way they are kind of like the ode to history that goes into this particular bottle. Really cool. This is the most classic barbecue pairing, in my opinion. There is no better barbecue pairing than this Lambrusco. So we can talk a little bit about
let's talk about the grapes. Yeah. And then we'll talk about that one in particular.
Yeah. So the grape is Lambrusco de Cerbera. Lambrusco in general can be a number of different grapes in the Lambrusco family. Lambrusco is the name of the wine, but it's also the name of the grape. Mm-hmm. This is where like old world wine labels and wine names are so much more confusing than new world. So we think of Lambrusco, you think that's the name of the wine. It's the name of the grape. But there's different Lambruscos. So ours is Lambrusco de Cerbera, 100% in this bottle. This is what they call frizzante. So it's not sparkling, but it does have a little bit of that sparkling quality to it. And it is held under pressure, which you can see like it opens a little bit like a champagne bottle would open. You can't put the cork back in because the cork is, so it's too big to stick back in the bottle. So really, really cool. Lambrusco got a really, really bad rap in like the 70s and 80s. You remember kind of like the table wine that you would get at the grocery store that was in the basket?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, so there was Chianti, which also got a bad rap during that time period, but Lambrusco as well, because people were selling a lot of really bad Lambrusco. They were, it was really sweet. It just wasn't made to the quality of what this glass would indicate. And so sometimes when we're talking about Lambrusco, people are just kind of like, what? Like, oh, I had that stuff. It was like Kool-Aid. This is not that. This is amazing. It's really, really delicious. It's, I would describe it as dry. There's a touch of residual sugar, but we're not talking a sweet wine by any means. It's a beautiful, the color is just kind of like this. It almost looks like a Negroni. It's got this like orangish red color to it with just a little bit of bubble, and it's really nice to drink. And I can't exactly explain why this is like the number one barbecue pairing in the world. All I can say is every time I take a sip of it, I think that would be so good with a piece of salami or a slice of brisket. It's a meat drink. I mean, it really just kind of like
so it
lends
itself to that for sure.
100%. And I actually opened this like 6 years ago at the barbecue festival. Everybody had their beers and they were drinking beers in the tent. And I was like, who wants Lambrusco? And I opened it up and Blood Brothers were sitting next to us, and Regals and Papa Charlie's. So Jim and Wes were there. And I just poured this for as many people that would let me. And everybody was just like, this is awesome. This is so good.
Wow. That's great. So is this something that, are you seeing a lot of people gravitate towards this, or is this something that you have to kind of tell people, hey, you should give this a shot, and then of course they would like it? But
a little bit of both. I think some people, it's under our menu as a sparkling wine, but it is also a rosé, and I think that sells itself to some extent. Like those two categories combined, sparkling rosé is that's an easy target. But I also think there are people that are starting to know the secret. There are people that come in and say, oh yeah, like I've heard that this is a great barbecue wine, and they order it. Also, I think our staff is really excited about it, and so they have fun selling it. But Lambrusco is still, I think, relatively unknown to the consumer. I also think it has a bad rep, so it's an uphill battle trying to convince people that this is one of like a really good quality wine and that they should try it. So it's a little bit of both. It's like a fun challenge. It's a fun challenge on our menu.
Yeah, and I think I'll mention it at the beginning of this that we're going to be talking about wines, and I'll try to reiterate with promoting this to let people know that we're going to talk about wines that work really well with barbecue, because I don't feel like anybody's talking about that. I think that's something that people maybe know that wines pair, but this sounds like the ideal. And when you sent me, when we were talking about this, like prepping for this, I hadn't heard that in such a long time. I had to research it, and I haven't had a Lambrusco in ages. It's been, I think I probably snuck one off like a table as a kid or something like that. That's probably only.
I'm going to ship you a bottle.
Okay.
It's so good. It's so good. I'm going to make sure that you get this.
Do you think this will be something that'll list, like, will you have enough through the summer? Is this, you're going to be replenishing this? Is this something specifically? Okay.
This is something that I imagine will always be available and on our menu. And we talk a little bit about like vintage variation and things changing from year to year. This is not that wine. This wine will taste how it should, how you taste it one year is how it's going to taste the next year. So that kind of reliable favorite. I've been drinking this wine for, 8 years now and love it. It tastes the same every time. And I can appreciate that about it. So I'm not always a snob when it comes to these things, but this is also a wine that has a lot of respect with people in the wine industry. So when you go to Rosie Cannonball and places in Houston that have just phenomenal wine lists, you'll see this on the menu. They'll be talking about it, promoting it, and, really kind of showing that they think it's a great quality wine. And to me, that just kind of reinforces that, like, we have this wine on our menu that's also on the menu at a restaurant that has a huge and flawless wine reputation. So, like, this is when could we ever say that before in barbecue? Never.
And that's also something too that I want people to get out of this, is that I want people to come and if they don't know wine that well, ask your staff and say, surprise me with something, or I'm going to be ordering this. I want that to be something that becomes part of a norm thing, that we're not just now 6 months, but now when we're doing this, it's not that we're not trying to tell people to do this. They are doing this as much as, and it sounds like it's what you've created, Erin. It's like the toot your own horn, like not to toot your, is that what you've created, Erin, is something that is really special, because it gives people an opportunity to expand their horizons with different wines. And there's going to be certain wines that'll always be on your list, and ones that'll change because you've run out of it and moved on to their other vintage. Or I'm really excited about this. Like, I'm more excited than even when you emailed me about it. And it's interesting. If I'll put a link below to a story that I was reading about Lambrusco, because it's a fascinating story about the grape itself, and then the many different types of varieties of that grape. That's sort of am I saying it correctly? Is that what it is?
It's like a family tree. Okay, so there's the family tree, and then it branches off, right? Yeah. So the Lambrusco grapes are all part of the same family tree, and they have the same origins.
Gotcha.
And there's other wines that are like that are part of the same family tree. They don't all have similar names, like the Lambrusco varieties, which is what you call the different grapes, but the varieties in Lambrusco usually all have the name starting with Lambrusco, so it's easy to know they're in the same family. Not all grapes are like that. Some of them have very different names, but they are of the same family tree and have the same, like, ancestral lineage.
Excellent. Well, that's good for people to know. If they're in Boise, Idaho, listening to this, and they're not going to be able to visit your restaurant, I want them to be able to go to a wine shop and then be able to purchase it and try it themselves. And if you do, and you want to make a comment below or email either of us and let us know what you thought, that would be great too, because I want to spread the love of wine and get people to drink more carefully, safely, responsibly.
Safely, yeah.
I guess that's a word I should say, responsibly. Do you think Volker is ready to jump in?
Oh yeah, I think Volker's ready. I'm ready to start tasting his wine too.
All right, excellent. All right, let's patch Volker in right now. Volker, very nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you as well.
We're so excited. So Volker, you are our first guest appearance on our second episode of the Wine and Barbecue podcast. So I'm going to just quickly introduce you. So guys, we have Volker Donovan with us. He is a Houston resident. He is also a Spring Branch resident, so we're very close by in the neighborhood. And we've just added, the purpose of the podcast is to talk about some of the new wines at Feges Barbecue. So this is very apropos. We just added a wine that Volker is going to talk about that's very, very closely connected to Volker. It's a Gruner Veltliner. And so I can't do any of it justice. I'm going to go ahead and have you, Volker, start talking about you and your wine history and the wine itself.
So
and then I've got a test at the end of this, by the way.
Okay, good.
A test for me or for Volker? Okay.
A test for Volker.
Oh, for me, okay.
Good, thank you.
So I grew up in Austria in a small town about 80 kilometers west of Vienna on the beautiful blue Danube. Not that blue anymore, but my whole family's been there for over 400 years and on the family winery for like 250 years and change something. But yeah, I basically grew up in winemaking. I worked several harvests all over the world in different wine regions, like from New Zealand to Canada, France. And then in 2012, I basically settled down in New York and started working for a wine import company. I worked there for it was 8.5 years in New York City.
And that's a little different than Austria, but I guess you had moved around a lot. So.
Yeah, I moved around for like 6-7 years before I moved to New York. But yeah, totally different. New York City's population is the same than Austria. So.
What was it? I'm just curious because I don't talk to many Austrians. What was it like growing up, and what was it like growing up in a wine family? That's a very special thing.
Yeah, I mean, you grew up with wine. I mean, you have your first wine at a pretty young age when you don't drink it. I mean, it's kind of like, it's in the culture. I mean, everybody drinks wine, but I also have a lot of siblings. I have 7 brothers and a sister. So it was very interesting to grow up with that many siblings and a small winery. And we were basically always outside, like playing in the vineyards and like also helping pick grapes, the harvest during harvest time. And
do you get a chance to go back often?
I mean, pre-COVID, I went back 4 times a year for business and also like seeing family. Yeah, but I haven't been back in 2+ years. Last trip was like exactly over 2 years ago, February 2020 or something. Yeah.
Hopefully you'll get a chance to go back soon.
Oh yeah. The first trip is planned for May. So
good.
Let's hope it's gonna happen.
So where did you go from New York? Did you go to California from New York?
I mean, I always went back and forth, but actually my first overseas harvest was in California. I worked in 2006 for Rose and Bloom in Alameda.
Oh.
Do you remember that winery? I don't know if this, probably still around. But yeah.
I think they are.
Yeah.
Erin
not wines.
I don't know actually.
All right.
not wines we drink now. So
I'll put a note below.
Yeah. But but no, live in New York. I always went back and forth to work because we worked also with a lot of domestic producers in New York, and still do actually here in Texas as well.
How did you end up in Houston? Then I saw that said that. So I ended up in Houston. That was the last part of that bio that I read.
So my wife Sarah and I met in New York. So we met. She grew up in Kingwood and relocated, moved here in 2018. Like August of 2018. So we've been longer in the pandemic now since we're back or here in Houston then.
It's a great place to get stuck.
Yeah.
That's kind of ideal. When did you guys meet? In 2019?
The two of us?
Yeah.
We met like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, because we have a little son and I didn't really do tastings during COVID. It was just too risky. And I actually just started like 2 months ago.
Okay.
Like doing tastings again with clients.
So Volker, we have a small wine list as we've talked about on previous podcasts. And so we're really always trying to keep the number of vendors that we work with low so that we can give each vendor adequate business. And so early on when we opened, I started getting email addresses from or emails from Volker, and I wasn't super familiar with him or his wine business, but I saw them coming in. And then one day he stopped me and said, "Hi, I'm Volker." I immediately connected him to the emails I was getting, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. We're so busy, and also we're really trying to keep our wine menu down." But he was so friendly and we had a lot of fun chatting. And so I said, "Okay, let's taste some wine." So we set up a time and I'm telling you, like, we tasted some really good stuff. And I was like, "Okay, I'm convinced we're adding your wine to the list."
That's awesome. That's nice.
Yeah.
Our first tasting, I think we tasted like 16 wines or something.
Yeah. But we spit all of it out.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Of course. So the wine that we just added to the list is the Gruner Veltliner. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the Gruner and how did you select this grape? Obviously, it's pretty common in Austria, but how did you settle on this? Growing up, so Gruner Veltliner is a native Austrian grape and also the most planted grape in Austria. It's white. A lot of people the taste sometimes is kind of like Sauvignon Blanc, but usually it has like this white pepper notes, apricots, stone fruit.
But my idea was to have Grüne Veltliner easy drinking with like low alcohol, high acidity. So like something very fresh. So people have a second and maybe a third glass, yes. And don't stop with the first one. So that was
that's
the
what
whole
we're hoping
idea.
Too.
Yeah. So because it is a very easy drinking white wine.
So how much input then do you have? Are you?
I mean, pre-COVID, I went back 4 times and always like helped like with different steps.
Okay.
But I haven't been back, so I'm making this wine with a friend of mine, and she's basically doing the whole process now until I'm able to travel again. Yeah.
Erin, were you just trying it just now?
Yeah, and I got my little spit cup. This is not from the exact same. Is this from the same estate that your family does their winemaking from?
No, so we actually purchase the grapes this summer from my friend's vineyard, and we'll buy a couple tons of grapes as well. I mean, the total production is now like 800-900 cases, but it's only sold here in the States mostly, actually. I work now in like 15 different states. No, it's not. So my family's business is a winery. My oldest brother owns that and he runs it. It's completely separate.
Yeah. Okay. So is this similar to a style that you?
Yes. So the Grüne Veltliner, the entry levels are pretty similar styles, like fresh wines.
How was that when you decided to start that up here? Was that a challenge, or was that something, or was it a challenge that you were excited about?
I mean, I feel like to introduce new wines is always a little challenging. I mean, the wine needs to be good, but it's the first couple of years was. Erin keeps drinking.
Yeah, for those listening on the podcast, Erin just took another sip.
It's good. I can tell you that it's good.
But yeah, I love champagne, and kind of like the champagne is also like easy drinking. Mm-hmm. You have a second glass, so that was like, I always want to have something like, well, it's not sparkling, but it's like you want a second and a third glass.
So this is just one grape, right?
Just one grape. And I just have this one wine I make with a friend. Everything else is like different wineries I import.
Okay. Wow. So this is kind of a nice thing to have. This is the only, I imagine this is the only barbecue spot that has your wine.
Yeah, it is.
Are you guys planning to expand and do more wines in the future?
Not at the moment. I just want to stick with the one and focus on that one.
Here's an odd question then, and I don't know if I can edit this out. How did you guys try 16 wines? So those are the other wines are ones that you represent, correct?
Yes.
In your portfolio. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So my main business is I'm importing wine and selling them to restaurants. So I have Lo-Fi. Do you know Lo-Fi? They're from Santa Barbara County.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I represent them in Texas.
Oh, okay.
For example, so I have those wines, and then I have several. Most of my portfolio is like biodynamically and organically certified. Was not the focus, but those are the wines I love.
So, do you focus on specific wine regions as well?
No.
Okay, so all over.
All over. I have wines from Washington State. I have wines from Michigan. They're amazing. Didn't we taste one? I don't think we did.
I don't think I've ever had.
I think we did. Yeah, I would remember. I've never had a wine from Michigan, but I have had wines from Indiana and like similar regions that are surprisingly really good. I've never seen them
by with them
in the market. Okay.
I mean, those guys make Riesling and Gamay, so like colder climate varietals, but the wine's incredible.
That's
awesome.
I love the fact that like over the last maybe decade or a little bit longer, how so many different states now have their own little pockets or their own little wineries.
Yeah.
And
amazing.
But it wasn't something like 50 years ago. You wouldn't have seen that at all.
Yeah.
But I think people just became industrious, and I guess that's the way for a lot of different things, but I love it with wine. And that's so do you have other wines then, Erin, are there other wines on your list that are from Volker or just that one?
For now, it's just this one because we do have such a small list, no, I mean, we plan on tasting together again. So if there's an opportunity to add more of his portfolio, we certainly will. I enjoyed a lot of the wines that we tasted. And we would laugh about this. Like, I have a really specific idea of what I want for the restaurant. And then I have a really specific idea of what I like, and everything that we tasted, I'm like, I love this. I want this for my house. But I don't know if it's going to be the perfect fit for the restaurant. And so it's always kind of trying to find that balance. But I definitely think that okay, so now I know I've been saying Gruner Veltliner the wrong way forever.
It's like my first name. So.
Yeah, well, you say it and it flows so easily out here.
Yeah.
Gruner Veltliner.
Gruner Veltliner. Okay.
But it's so perfect for our menu, and it's very popular. We've been selling it for a few weeks now, and it's one of our top selling white wines.
Like that.
And what are people just getting it as a nice drinking wine, or are people getting it to pair with certain things, or are you recommending it with certain things?
People are getting it as a nice drinking wine. I think it's a recognizable enough varietal, and so that helps us sell it. But also, as Volker has mentioned, it's just a really easy to drink wine. So if we pour a sip of it, they always buy it because it's really good. It's super approachable. And it's really refreshing, even though it's cold outside for us right now in Texas. People, I think, are always looking for something refreshing.
Mm-hmm. It's something they could drink every day. And it's something also, too, you have the opportunity to buy a bottle, right, from you?
We always encourage the bottle, yes.
Okay. That's good. And maybe we'll do something like, if they're listening and they order and they mention it, then we'll mention them on the air. The people will I'll keep a list, or I'll keep a running list of fans that have listened to this and then choose to order it. And so we'll see what happens. I'll try to do something in the intro to kind of push that.
I love that.
Maybe someday we'll do like a little contesty thing, but or some kind of giveaway. Anything specific about the wine, Volker, that you would want people to know about?
I mean, the grapes are organic, coming from organic certified vineyard.
Explain a little bit about what makes grapes organic and biodynamic, because I think a lot of the listeners are probably interested. It's not it's not as straightforward as one might think.
I think the easiest thing to say, they don't use much chemicals in the vineyards, or like biodynamic certified wineries. I think the only thing they use is sulfites, but it's basically also like a natural product. Mm-hmm. And nothing else really. All the wines are basically natural, like spontaneous ferment. That means the fermentation starts with the ambient yeast from the wine cellar and from the grapes. So they don't add cultured yeast to start the fermentation. Just like a more environmentally friendly way to make your fermentations or start the fermentation.
What do they use to keep away pests? And I think I've read certain things about in the Santa Barbara region or something, like, because there's some kind of funky things that they do. I'll try to remember what they are, but it's like they bury certain things in the dirt. They do some sort of, like, have you heard that stuff?
Oh, you mean like they make like different kind of fertilizers, for the vineyards, and the different spraying things for the vineyards. But everything is like basically made from the vineyard. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No chemicals at all.
No. And most of the wineries I work with, they also don't irrigate. So they don't use, there might be like one domestic one who irrigates the vineyards, but everybody else just uses whatever the nature gives them. So I've been making wine like in the Austrias in those regions for like 300 years. So the vines are used to the climate. Mm-hmm.
So one thing I explain to our staff, because they don't really understand what it means when I say there's low intervention or the hands-off winemaking, it doesn't mean as much to them. So I always try to say, if you drink a wine and it tastes the same every year, year after year, nature didn't make it that way, right? Nature creates chaos. Nature creates diversity. Yeah. So in order for you to have a wine that tastes the exact same and it's tasted that way for 20 years, there's a lot of meddling. There's a lot of things that go in. They're watering because they need to make sure that it's consistent with years past. They're doing everything throughout the winemaking process to create consistency, right? So what Volker is saying is that he works with people that are pretty hands-off, that allow nature to determine how much water the grapes are going to get, and when the yeast is going to be introduced and fermentation is going to start. And so what it does is it creates these beautiful wines, but they're characteristically very different from vintage to vintage, and which is great, but not good if you're somebody who's really expecting the same thing. So I love a lot of vintage variation. We work with producers like who Volker works with that do more limited production and are a little bit hands off. And when we get the new vintage, I have to retrain my staff, because sometimes I'm like, this is same grape, same producer, but it's not the same wine. And here, and it's so cool for them to learn this, because I think it really creates this like connection to, we have the ability to manipulate as much as we want to, but if you were to just let nature do what nature does, like this is what was created. This is what we get. And I think there's a lot of really good winemaking talent that shows through when you don't have as much intervention, because you're relying so much on instinct and what they know. And if you can still create a beautiful wine without really manipulating it, like you're good at what you do.
Yeah. I mean, my harvest in, I think it was 2009 in New Zealand, we made Sauvignon Blanc. I don't know how many. I think we crushed 50 or 60 tons like in like a week or so. It's like insane. Wow. Basically, the dump truck comes and dumps grapes every hour into a huge receiving bin. But those wines are made with a recipe, so every vintage tastes the same.
Yeah, it's because people expect it to, right?
Yeah. It's like always the New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. I think this is the last time I had one, actually.
Like chances are it's one like there's one. Yeah, there are people that are buying a lot of times off like a retail shelf and expecting to have it the same thing. But I like that changes like flavor profile and depth of character year to year. I think that's nice. But is that interesting for you as a representative? That must be interesting, because you're selling a new wine even though it's the same maker.
I mean, I know that's from my other importers, they retaste every vintage before they buy them, but I trust my producers and I always buy the new vintages. But I'm always like, I mean, sometimes I'm surprised like how different. I mean, sure, I mean, the climates, like last year was pretty warm vintage, so there's a little bit higher, just a tiny bit higher in alcohol. But also like less acidity, so that's probably the main things would change like from year to year. So the sparkling wines, if you harvest them earlier too, it's always interesting to see what the difference is with the high acidity and like for the pet nuts, the ones you love so much here.
Wow, that's interesting. I think that a lot of people that are listening, they don't think about it as much. It's not something that they think day to day. So I'm glad you brought that up, Erin. That's interesting.
Yeah,
it is a natural product. Well, let's say most of the wines are.
What information should we give? Some information as to if people want to look at your website and learn more about your product. Is it volkerwines.com?
It's Volker Wines works, so volkerwineco.com.
Volker Wine Code.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll put a link, and I'll try to be fancy and maybe put it on this too.
Okay. Cool. Thanks.
So before we go, we've got one quick test for Volker. When I was tasting with him, I said, all of our wines are available by the glass. And it's really important that the wine is structured in a way that it can be opened and then still taste good on day 3, taste as good on day 3 as it did when you opened it. And he swore left and right that the Gruner was going to be that wine. And so the bottle that I have in front of me was opened 4 days ago, and I'm drinking it, and he passes the test.
Thank you.
Tastes, and I actually had them hold it. Like I had them put this aside for me just to make sure that I had an aged wine and that I wasn't opening a fresh bottle and trying to make this test happen. So this is 4 days old. It's super crisp, super clean, super delicious. And that's hard. I mean, that 4 days is a lot on a bottle of wine. So that's impressive. It works very well for our list.
That's amazing. I have one of my producers, Hager, who makes also biodynamic wines, but his Gruner always like it's every day. And like when I kept it like for 5 days in the fridge and gets better and better.
That's
a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, that doesn't happen often. I don't think I've had many that. So that's good for people to know. If they buy a bottle of wine at Feges, then they take it home, and if they don't have to finish it all unless they
Right.
really want to that evening. They can
Correct.
wait. They can take a day off and then drink the rest. Well, thank you so much, Volker, for coming on, for being our first guest, and
Thank you
for
so much.
explaining so much. And it's interesting what you're doing, and I hope you do get a chance to go in May back to your family. That would be
I
nice
hope so too. Awesome.
Excellent.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a great
you.
rest. That was fun. That was nice to have our first guest. What do you think of that?
I thought it was great. I mean, I just love hearing people talk about their own products, because there's no way I could do it justice like he's going to do it justice. And also, as we learned, I'm going to never pronounce things correctly. Hopefully our audience can be sympathetic to that, because I refuse to apologize for it, because it's just going to happen. But it's so beautiful to hear him say it in his accent and pronounce everything correctly.
Yeah, the fact that he grew up in a wine family and it's 200-year-old, that's 200, they're not 200 years old as people, but that it goes back 200 years. That's something that you and I, many people listening to this, have never had that. So and he's so knowledgeable, and the fact that he's making a wine that you love, that's killer. That's fun. And that it's in the synergy, the fact that you guys met happenstance, and now it's like not happenstance, he'd been emailing you. This is really cool.
Still happenstance. I think that my favorite thing about cooking, my favorite thing about barbecue, and my favorite thing about wine is that it brings people together. And the way I met Volker, and the way this wine, came to be on our menu, I feel like it's just really organic and is a testament to how much all those things bring people together.
That's what this is about. That's what your restaurant's about. That's what hopefully the show is about, and in general, it's just, we all need, especially with COVID and everything that's happened and the craziness in the world, is that we need to be closer as people, and to be understanding and kinship, and that you've created a restaurant where people can hang out and really enjoy themselves. And do you find people, I was curious, do you find people after they're done with their meal ordering more wine and hanging out? Is that happening a lot?
The afternoon crowd, definitely. I think that they come in, they order food, but I think they come in to enjoy a glass of wine and catch up with a friend. And they hang out, they're here for a while, they get, more than one glass. And it's just like really fun to watch, especially in a barbecue restaurant. It's like, the visual of it is really, amazing.
You make moving to the Spring Ranch or outer areas so much more interesting to someone like me, because I'm like, I can just come over and have some wine, have a little barbecue, have a lot. Like, it's just such have a friend and chat with a friend. That would be cool. Excellent. So then also too, so those are the three wines that we're covering, and I'll get photos from you. We'll have those in the montage if you're watching on the YouTube version, and I'll have links below to all the different wines. And then also link to your menu with where the wines reside, so people can see the full list. I wanted to talk to you about, you guys have a Guest Chef Takeover coming up.
Yes. So we are fortunate to have met a friend of ours. His name is Aki Kinnunen. He's from Finland, and he came and stayed with us. Well, he emailed us about coming to stage. He'd asked to stage for like 8 weeks, and we didn't know anything about him, and we were really hesitant to agree. And so we were like, you can come for like a couple days. And that was February of 2020. And we walked in, he showed up at 5 a.m. And so I get to the kitchen at 8, and he's this massive Viking. I mean, his physical presence is just, like caught me off guard. And, but he would, had a bus tub over his shoulder and was just working away, said hi. He was the nicest, just the nicest guy. And so we worked with him for the 3 days. Our whole team fell in love with him. We fell in love with him. We were taking him out to get crawfish. We were like, you got to go to the rodeo. We totally okayed him staying for as long as he wanted. We were like, 3 days? Why not 8 weeks? Like, you're great. And such a hard worker. And the reason he was here was he wanted to do, he wanted to go back to Finland and open a Texas barbecue restaurant. So it was like a research trip. And I honestly think he'd reached out to a lot of people, and just no one opened their doors to him. And we were the only people that said, yeah, come hang out with us for a few days. Of course, we all know what happened in March of 2020. So what was supposed to be a long trip full of experiences in Texas barbecue became a very short trip. But it was long enough for us to really create a relationship with him. And he told us this year he wanted to come back, and he's been in town for, I think, almost 8 weeks now. He spent a little bit of time with us this time. We got to we got to do what we were hoping to do with him last time, which is set him up with some other people. So he spent time with Evan Leroy. He spent time with the Blood Brothers. He spent time with Koi Barbecue. He is now currently in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. Like, he's literally living it up right now, having the most amazing barbecue experiences, and creating a lot of really great relationships. But when he first got here, we'd said, you know, we were talking about what do we want to do to kind of celebrate him being here. And his restaurant is now open in Finland. So it's Texas barbecue. It's called Miller's Barbecue. And I mean, they're just killing it because, you know, there's only one, maybe two places in Finland doing Texas barbecue. And the phenomenon that is Texas barbecue has literally transcended the entire globe. Mm-hmm. People in Finland, he doesn't need to explain what it is. They know. They
How
come
wild
for
is that
it.
now?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
They come for it. Now, they may not have experienced it before, but like, they know what it is. They're excited to try it. It could be a whole podcast just trying to talk to you about how hard it is to get brisket in Finland. But we were like, let's do this guest chef series. So the concept is he's creating a dish. It's going to be available on Saturday, March 12th from 5 to 9. You can pre-order it. I can send you the link for that.
Perfect, yeah.
So you can pre-order it. You don't have to, but that just kind of guarantees that you're going to get to try it. Otherwise, there's no reservations or anything required. You show up on Saturday, March 12th between 5 and 9. And if you've pre-ordered your dish, then you're guaranteed to get it. You can order other things as well. I also have a wine pairing that I'm really excited about that we haven't announced. So this will be the first time I announce it. It's the La Lune Cabernet Sauvignon. It's a California wine. I think Costa Brava is the specific wine region in California. Yeah. And so excited to put his dish with that bottle of wine. It's just going to be a lot of fun, kind of casual, because we're not a high-end restaurant. So it's not going to be like a lot of pretense involved, but Aki is going to be going around. If you order the dish, he's going to come talk to you. There's going to be a little bit of interaction involved with him. That. Yeah. And we really just wanted to do this to celebrate him and to get him out there so that, like, all the people in barbecue in Houston, I think, are really kind of catching on to who he is, because we've been posting a lot about him in the past couple of weeks. But we want the diners to get to experience that as well. And then if you're ever in Finland, obviously you've got to hit up his restaurant. But no, we're really excited to do that. It'll be our first one. We've been talking about doing them for a while. COVID's kind of always.
I think you had mentioned that this is something. Yeah. Kind of, yeah, but also it was something you had talked about wanting to do this.
And I cannot imagine kicking off this series with like a better chef. And what a cool experience to get this chef from all the way across the world.
Yeah, how often are you going to try something and then actually get to interact with him? And then I'll put links below to all of his stuff, and I would like to start following that and promote, because then if you're going to Finland, or going to be near Finland, if you're going to be near Finland, then you should stop. But that's really, I think everyone should go to. I want to go to Finland, so that's cool.
We're going. We don't have the tickets yet, but Patrick and I are going.
Okay,
we are going to go, and we're going to do a sauna. That's a sauna, but they say it better than we do, and they're like the inventors of the sauna. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to eat barbecue.
I think everyone should sauna more. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, that should be that's my dream too. That's wonderful. That's cool. So that's what it is. Okay. That's on the 12th from 5 to 9. Yes. You'll send me the link, but people can go. I'm sure you'll start. Have you promoted it all? I know it's on your website, but have you guys have you made the link live yet, or is it?
It's live. We've only put it in the newsletter. We have not put it on social media yet. We've just had a lot of other things to promote. So it's coming. It's going to be available on social media soon with live links that you can access there as well.
Cool. And then that also lends to the fact that people should sign up for your newsletter to get the extra scoop to see.
That is correct. You should all be signing up for the Feges Barbecue newsletter. Go to our website and subscribe.
Yeah, because not every place has a newsletter, and that was cool. Okay, cool. That's awesome. And then before we forget, I want to talk about your veterans program that you're doing, the Fridays, the whole thing.
Yes.
Can you talk to it's very powerful.
Yeah, so it's incredible. We have always wanted to support veterans. Originally, we were offering a $10 discount, 10% discount to all veterans. We still do that at both locations any day of the week. If we're open, veterans get 10% off. During COVID, we had a friend of ours reach out and say, hey, I want to do something, and I think you guys are the right place to do it. I'd like to buy veteran meals periodically. And so we talked about it for a while and settled on doing it every Friday, which I thought was incredibly generous. Yeah. It started out slow and it grew. And, word of mouth is challenging with veteran news because they're not all on our newsletter or, all the ways in which we reach out to people. We just weren't really like getting the word out with the right audience. But it did start growing as one veteran would show up, they'd bring 3 the next week. And so it's grown and it's beautiful. And, our relationship with the original person who had the idea and was basically funding all of this, it just had expired. Like he'd fulfilled the commitment and was incredibly generous. And I was planning to let veterans know, like, hey, we're going to do this for one more Friday, but we're wrapping it up. Thank you so much for your service. And that was last Friday that I was going to be there doing that. And the first group of people that showed up, they showed up in uniform. We talked to them for a little bit because we weren't super busy yet. And I started having a lot of doubts about ending it. And then the next guy that showed up had his 4-year-old daughter with him and was explaining, what it means to be a veteran. And, oh my gosh, it just like made me I was just so energized. Like, we cannot stop doing this. We have got to find a way to keep this going. And we put it in our newsletter and we started getting a lot of people reaching out saying, I want to do this. I want to, donate. And then I got emotionally overtaken by just how generous people are. And so I posted about how overwhelmed I was with people's, generosity. And then that led to even more donations. And so I am super proud to announce that we've raised enough to keep Veteran Fridays going for what we estimate is going to be 42 weeks.
Oh my Lord.
That is almost a year. I had no goal when we started this 3 days ago. I hadn't thought about how much we wanted to raise. I just wanted to keep it going for as long as possible. And now we're so close to a year. So I've obviously gravitated towards a year as the goal. So 52 weeks. We're so close and I think we'll definitely get there.
So what's the best way to donate? Yeah.
So I did some research and I wasn't really fond of going like the GoFundMe route because, you lose like 3%. And I wasn't sure how it would be as a business to be receiving funds that way. So we are doing it all through gift cards. So I can get you guys a link. Get an e-gift card. You use my email address, Erin@fegesbbq.com is the recipient so that I get the gift card emailed to me. And then we have a tab every Friday. We've always done it this way. We just build a tab for the veteran orders. And then at the end of the shift, we use the gift cards and we pay off the tab. And then the next week we do the same thing. So right now we estimate we've got enough for 46 weeks. If Veterans Fridays grows, because it's obviously gotten some more press lately in the past couple of days, so it might get bigger. That might not last as long, but it's still hugely impactful. And I gotta say, those veterans are so grateful. And it's crazy because I'm going, no, we're doing this to thank you. Yeah. And they're going, no, but thank you. And I'm like, no, we're doing this to thank you.
I'm not crying. You're crying. We're all crying.
I know. It's
this something just at your, the Greenway, or is this at both locations, or is this just?
So yeah, Veteran Fridays is just at Greenway Plaza. Okay. We're just not sure that we would be able to do it at Spring Branch. It would be obviously a lot bigger, and I think the turnout would be a lot greater, which is good, but I don't know that financially we can support that. Yeah. So it's just at Greenway Plaza. But like I mentioned, the 10% discount is all day, every day at both locations, assuming that we're open for business. And we also do big Veterans Day events at both locations. So veterans eat for free at both locations on Veterans Day.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
So if you're a veteran, do you just show up is there some time, or is there?
Well, we're open from 11 to 2 at Greenway Plaza. So that's the time frame, 11 to 2. Yeah.
Okay.
We don't require any type of ID. A lot of people show us, their ID. We don't. If you say you're a veteran, we're going to believe you at your word. If you're not being honest about it, that's on you, not on us.
That's on you. Yeah.
But I can tell you this right now, people are really proud of their service. And so when people show up and they say, I'm a veteran, you can tell, man. I mean, they wear that pride on their shoulders.
Of course, yeah.
And so it's just a beautiful thing. And I'm really glad that we're able to keep doing it. And I just want to thank everybody that donated, because it's like an honor to be able to do that, to be able to serve the people who served us.
That makes me so proud. And that makes me so happy for humanity, and that people would do. That's so great. And I'll put a link below. Yeah. And now that I know the exact way, I'll be sending you a gift card too. This is great. This is so wonderful. So, okay. So this is a great way to end this episode. With love and generosity, and and people get down a lot, and it's nice to know that, there's a lot of light out there. There's a lot of light and goodness, and that makes me so happy. So I guess how do we wrap these things up? It was so great. It was so great to talk to you again, Erin. And if you're listening to this and you've listened all the way to this, next month there'll be another one, episode 3. But right now, thank you guys, everyone, for listening to episode 2 of the Barbecue and Wine podcast YouTube show. And I appreciate you, Erin. I appreciate what you're doing, and I appreciate what you're doing with the wine world. I'm excited to see. It's nice because I think as we go, you'll always be kind of showing new wines as well as ones that you're surprised with, and that, like, what a surprise that 3 days ago a wine came across your desk.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Thank you, Kevin. I always have so much fun with you.
Always.
So much fun.
Well, I always have fun. Yeah, this is like something now I have, like, for sure, something to look forward to every month. But this is cool. This is really, this has been great. And also I like the fact that I hope that people, when they listen to this, it's educational for them too, because there's a lot to learn and a lot to absorb with in the wine world. So cool. Have a good one. All right, take care.
You too.